Once again, thank you so much for being here. This means a lot to us, knowing that you are taking the time to learn a little bit more about LEGO education alongside of us. If you haven't done so already, please, 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 we would love to know who you are. Go ahead and add that information into the chat. Feel free, tell us where you're located. And if anything, there's very specific interests you have in learning more about, so that we can try to address them as much as possible. So, of course, why we're here today. Today we're going to be discussing funding around LEGO education programs, and specifically what are types of funding that is available to potentially leverage to bring LEGO education to your school or district. So with that, I would like to also mention I have a bunch of different colleagues inside of this webinar as well. So feel free, if there's anything you can think of, contribute to the chat. One of them will be happy to jump in and answer anything that they can. Otherwise, my name is Dr. Holly Gerlach. I have the absolute privilege of being a solution architect at LEGO Education, and that is a very fancy title, basically to say that I do a lot of things as it relates to not only implementation, but really thinking about how we can have different types of programming in different school and in learning environments. So thinking about everything as it relates to logistics, to thinking about professional learning opportunities, standards alignment, curriculum needs, anything and everything as it relates to really creating a sound and robust implementation plan. That's kind of where my day job lies, if you will, as I like to always explain. However, one of the great things that I absolutely have the privilege of doing is serving and working with different individuals throughout the US, and specifically throughout the US. So really thinking about this from that perspective, and thinking about how we can make sure that it is something engaging and meaningful for everyone, from that student perspective alongside of that teacher perspective. So getting into this, the first question that I definitely feel like we need to be able to answer is exactly what is it that we actually have to offer? This is a question that we consistently get, and it is a great question. And it's important to also understand what it is that we actually have. So, of course, as with anything, because we are a part of the LEGO group, of course, we have our iconic bricks themselves, and they are great teaching and learning tools. But more importantly, what is it that we can actually do with them? So, one of the most important things that I always encourage individuals to understand and to consider is that our bricks should be viewed as a medium. They're a medium for communicating ideas. They're a medium for prototyping, for iteration, to create something that is typically abstract and make it something that's tangible. So there's a lot of different functionalities as it relates to what our bricks can do. So keep an open mind, especially as you think of what our bricks are, but more importantly, what they can do. So going into some of this specifically, because of course, what's most top of mind for us is we want to make sure that we think about what this experience would actually look like. If we were all together in person, this is something I would actually have you experience versus me just simply talking to you. So you could experience the power of our bricks, that you could see the novelty and engagement that happens when you interact with the bricks. But more importantly, that you could actually feel and experience the tangible learning aspect of it, the hands-on, more importantly, the minds-on, because these things are intended to not only develop content knowledge, but also to help develop skills. So in lieu of us actually all being together in person and actually being able to get hands-on with these sets themselves, instead, the next best thing that I can give to you today is going to be a quick video to give you a broad overview of what some of this actually looks like in action.
Preparing all students for an ever-changing world shaped by technology requires a new set of skills for both students and their teachers. The LEGO Learning System offers unlimited possibilities for playful, hands-on STEAM learning experiences that build confident creators and lifelong learners. Consisting of a range of interconnected solutions, the LEGO Learning System makes it easy to bring engaging, high-quality, standards-aligned lessons into all classrooms, across schools, and throughout districts. This easy to adopt system offers solutions that work with or without the need for technology. BrickQ Motion builds a foundational understanding of physical science concepts as a purely hands-on solution, while Spike Essential and Spike Prime offer a comprehensive, technology-enhanced STEAM learning experience. Flexible scaffolding makes it easy for students and teachers to get started and move seamlessly from learning with one solution to the next. Students in lower grades will get excited about STEAM learning through playful investigation of simple STEAM concepts while contributing to literacy, math, and social emotional development. As they grow older, students will apply a deeper understanding of concepts and practices in science, engineering, computer science, and mathematics to develop creative solutions to complex problems, which are easily connected to real-world scenarios. Backed by research on learning through play and 40 years of experience, LEGO Education's learning system solutions complement each other and unlock deeper learning opportunities, helping to engage students in a learning journey that future-proofs their skills to become confident, lifelong learners.
So like I said, just a quick video that showcases some of that powerful learning that we can support students and teachers with through some of our actual Lego education sets. So looking a little bit further into that, I also would love to get a little bit more granular as it relates to some of the actual capable solutions that we have used in previous circumstances and just things that we've historically done. Just to give a little bit more further insight around what our bricks can actually do. So starting off with some of that actual learning content, specifically, and like I said, full transparency, this is not fully exhaustive or comprehensive in any way, shape, or form. These are some just different examples of things that we have been able to successfully support within schools as it relates to different learning outcomes and desirable things that they want to see within their programmatic elements. So, whether it's something that is very much intended to be focused around science, for example, Build the Change, it's really going to hone in on different animals and habitats and ecosystems and thinking about human impact on those systems and what does it actually look like as in terms of those life science standards and how we can support that. Some of the other great work that we also have is Hannah's Team Heroes. So really leaning into that idea around career exploration and seeing how we can provide opportunities for students to explore different career pathways and what that might actually translate to in terms of real world connections and jobs that they might be interested or passionate about. And then we also have additional materials, like I said, once again, not fully exhaustive of anything that we actually have, but just simply some different ideas and different types of content. With that, we do actually span various grade levels. So, starting with our youngest learners in pre K and going through all the way through those elementary grades, as well as we do also support secondary. So, secondary, meaning our middle schools and high schools, depending on kind of where this ends up living, as I like to say. I know personally, I'm based out of Florida, and in Florida, we are huge proponents of finding things that can really support and integrate within our current course codes. So thinking about what do we have to teach in regards to the courses, what do those syllabus indicate, and how can we actually integrate this content to afford students different types of learning experiences. So once again, couple different examples that we have had the privilege of even collaborating with other entities on creating some really great and robust experiences. So outside of just our quote typical global lesson plans that you would be able to find online, we do have additional types of learning content that you can actually also access from our Lego community site, as well as there's even some localized content that we also have. So, where did these things actually go? How do people actually use them? So, if we start from a classroom level and we think about classroom experiences, so for our core classroom teachers that are actually engaging in different types of disciplines and thinking about those different subject areas that they teach. Big areas of synergy for us, as you had previously seen, we actually do have sets that are intended to fully support science and make that thinking visible as it relates to a lot of abstract concepts in science and thinking about scientific processing skills and things of that nature, and really building out what does that look like and how do we actually fully engage in this idea around science, but also thinking about this idea of how is mathematics integrated into these experiences. So how can we take everything from, practicing early numeracy all the way up to more complex multi-step problems and kind of everything and anything in between. So really calling out those different type of mathematics experiences. And then of course, thinking about this from a pedagogical perspective, we always want to make sure that we're being very thoughtful and intentional about what our materials can do. So, of course, with this idea around literacy, we're not going to be teaching students to read with our Lego bricks. However, there's authentic reading and writing opportunities that we do incorporate as part of this overall building hands-on experience. So a lot of that is going to set them up to be successful either in that pre-building experience or even post-building experience. But there's also a lot of things that we can do and we have done as it relates to story structure, thinking about craft and structure, characters, main setting. So there's lots of different ideas and things that we can actually put into play as it really kind of reinforces those literacy skills and these authentic opportunities as it relates to those learning experiences. So even just beyond, like I said, the traditional kind of classroom experience within those core content areas, we do also then span out into different types of learning environments. We've had some really great synergies as it relates to working with media specialists and school librarians. So thinking about how can we leverage a lot of their great work that they're doing within the media center. That really is that heart and the hub of where learning is happening, because we can access knowledge and we can not only use text, but also a lot of the times there's devices in the media centers. I have seen where people have used maker spaces within media centers. So really just thinking about what does that media center experience look like and how can we support them with different types of content, knowing that a lot of the times they do have high touch points because that is one of the physical places within a school building that all students get to experience. So it's always a really powerful opportunity for access, so that all students can have that opportunity and be able to fully incorporate some different type of learning, beyond just obviously book checkout and things like that. Also, one of the things that we see frequently is as it relates to electives, or what is commonly also known as special areas or even like wheel rotations, depending on where you are and kind of what you use it in terms of kind of that experience of it is a dedicated period within the day, whether that is a STEM lab, whether it is a maker space, whether maybe you do actually have a computer science class, or maybe it is something very specific that students get to actually attend as part of, whether it's that rotation schedule or whatever that might look like. So, really just trying to figure out how to best support what it is that they want, and thinking about their programming and what that might look like in the constructs of whether it's STEM, whether it is a makerspace, whether it's part of just once again kind of an elective pathway that they're experiencing. So lots of different opportunities there. Otherwise, another big area of synergy that we do have is in CTE or CTA, depending on obviously where you're located, but actually thinking about those courses. So thinking about those career pathways, and then once again, aligning with what makes sense. So we have a lot of great conversations as it relates to courses within those specific pathways, as it relates to engineering, robotics, computer science, IT. So a lot of the times we will work alongside with districts to figure out where are those, once again, areas where we can support and enhance the great work that's already happening, in those pathways to once again kind of iterate and allow for great meaningful instruction to happen for those students specifically in those pathway courses. So another type of use case, which has is definitely been something that has ramped up over the past couple years, is around this idea around summer camp experiences. So thinking about summer learning and what that might look like. We have a lot of different opportunities to be a part of summer camps that are existing, whether it is just we are the entire day and you actually would like us to be a full provider in terms of we can be a full day experience, or also scaling back and we just be a part of your summer camp experience. So really and truly it's all about what is the defined need, right? And those learning outcomes and what is it that you're trying to do. So we've seen where they want us to be part of the enrichment process where they're actually bringing students out to have a full, robust experience. Or where we've seen they're having Space Week, or whether it's Ocean Week or something of that nature, and they want us to very specifically hone in and be a part of that theme integration camp. We've also been invited and we've worked alongside of different districts that are actually offering reading camp. So, actually building in once again some authentic literacy opportunities to have a more hands on approach outside of those kind of more traditional reading and writing opportunities. So, to actually give a physical hands on experience to add to once again kind of their programming that they presently have in place. We've also seen where they just want us to be a really great part of their team building or their community gatherings, morning meetings, if you will. So even like this idea around quick bricks, having these small, really conducive builds that can be something that's really just like I said, a small part of the day, but a very meaningful part of the day. So once again, summer camp, we do a lot of different things as it relates to what we're capable and poised to do within that space. We can be a lot of the actual camp itself, or we can even be a small facet as a part of a larger kind of broad experience. Another kind of use case that we have in terms of programming is also bringing our learning outside of the traditional settings, more specifically around this idea of family and community engagement. So, how do we actually afford families and communities this opportunity to share in these powerful hands-on learning opportunities? So, we actually have some very specific sets. You can actually see these on the screen. They're called personal learning kits, and they are intended to be something that would actually go home with students. But more importantly, not just that they're going home with students, but they actually have follow up activities and things that they can do to reinforce the learning at home. Also, with this, we have had great experiences where we'll actually lead and facilitate family nights so that we can actively engage with not only just the students, not just the teachers, but also with those families and allow them to not only experience the bricks all together, but then to truly understand how they can support learning once again when they take those sets home and what that might look like and how the conversation continues beyond just once again just that family night and of course beyond the construct of a traditional school day. So, with all of these things, we know that there's so many different unique programmatic elements, especially when individuals or even districts or schools will approach us about kind of what it is. We always want to make sure that we keep that user experience in mind. What is it that you're actually trying to accomplish? What is it that you need from us? What type of support would that warrant? And how can we ensure that we are going to create the most seamless experience for both students and teachers? So thinking about that as much as possible, we want to make sure it's seamless. We want to make sure we can give you something that is turnkey that you feel comfortable and confident in delivering. So not only do we have that in terms of our professional learning capacity for our professional development program, but also alongside of our customer success program, making sure that we have different points that everybody can feel comfortable and confident no matter where they are in their user journey. So really thinking about how we can continuously support throughout that entire process. As well as we also want to make sure that we're being intentional as to we don't want to have a ton of prerequisite skills. So we want to be thoughtful about how we build out this type of learning and really think about how can we afford multiple entry points so that students can have a successful quote Lego experience, if you will, no matter where they're coming in. So for example, if we have a student that is starting in fourth grade, we don't have to worry that, oh goodness, they didn't have a Lego experience, kindergarten through third grade. They too can still be successful where they're starting. But also on that flip side, making sure that if you do have students that have had prior experience, how do we also really make sure that we are scaffolding their learning so that they can reach their full potentials? Full potential, excuse me. So really thinking about what does that look like and how do we support different types of learning throughout this process. The other thing, as I've kind of mentioned by those previous slides, is really thinking about the content and the learning curriculum themselves. Of course, we are supplemental. We are not a core provider. We're not going to have full lessons that are going to teach something every single day for 180 days. So we really think about how do we best integrate into the structures that you have presently, whether it is something that you are wanting to implement, 3 days a week, whether you're wanting to do something once a week, whether you have block scheduling, really thinking about those different types of implementations and providing you with the best possible recommendations so that you can feel comfortable and confident, not only with the materials, but more importantly, that you can reach those required learning outcomes that you are wanting to accomplish based on your academic standards, skill development, whatever kind of maybe your guiding thoughts for creating your program specifically. So, also keeping in mind, we do have both tech enabled and tech free solutions, depending on what it is that you're trying to accomplish. Some of those materials are naturally going to lend themselves better to certain type of learning. So, of course, if we are trying to lean into that computer science aspect, of course, having tech enabled is going to be a much better solution for you, thinking about the hardware and the software, and of course, the integration of the actual prototypes and things of that nature. But then, if it is something that we're using, more for these different types of learning experience, sometimes, like I said, those tech-free ones are going to be a better user experience based on what it is you're trying to accomplish. So, affording both of those to equally be able to deliver great outcomes, depending on, like I said, what it is you're trying to accomplish. And then once again, not to be repeated too much, but really and truly, our goal is for ease of use. We want to make sure that we are meeting you where you are. So regardless of whether that is you're working on a Chromebook, an iPad, if you have desktops, if you are using very specifically different types of actual software, whatever it may be, if it's a Chromebook, so that you have a great user experience. So we really want to make sure that we're working on a variety of device and platforms so that we can work, like I said, within whatever technology that you have presently, so we can make sure that it's as seamless as possible and you get that full experience if it is something that is for the tech enabled solutions. So overall, there's a lot of intentionality and thought process that goes into how we think about deploying these different types of solutions. And once again, that's part of what we do is we want to make sure that we afford everybody that opportunity to think about how might this look in your specific learning environment, knowing that everybody has their own nuances and cases that they're trying to plan for and account for. So, of course, the crux of why you're here, not only do we have all of these different types of programming, whether you're really focusing in on science or computer science, or you want something that's more of a comprehensive STEAM experience, exactly how can these things actually be funded? So, of course, there's lots of different answers to this question. And of course, as with anything, there's going to be a lot of variances and nuances within each of the actual states. But even within the states, districts, of course, can do things differently. So, we're going to speak to some of the historical perspective that we can provide as to things that we have successfully worked alongside of not only districts but schools to think about how can they fund these types of programs. So, one of the most important parts that I always say when we think about programs is obviously we have to be able to connect it to the funding in order to actualize these things. So, with different funding sources, of course, there's going to be certain types of funding sources that are earmarked for very specific requirements or allowables, if you will. So, thinking about what makes sense where and what you can do and where are those areas of synergy that we know we can not only provide thoughtful and meaningful instruction around, but also considering what are going to be those allowables, if you will, based on kind of some of those funding and grant requirements. So as we think about this, it really comes down to these three different things that we really take into account, especially as we're trying to really think about this grant project or even a narrative for a funding opportunity. We think about the people, of course. We think about the actual materials and supplies that are needed. And of course, we consider this idea around time. So, how do we thoughtfully approach this idea of people, knowing that we are talking about not only the teachers themselves, but also the students? The materials, of course, in this case, thinking about what is needed for our Lego education experience as it relates to different types of programming. And then, of course, the construct of time, which is going to be really and truly dictated by not only master schedules, but also how it is you intend to implement. So when we take into account these different things, there's going to be some different things that we can collectively kind of look at. So, from a federal program standpoint, these are all areas of synergy, as I like to say. This is not only things that we have successfully deployed in the past and worked alongside schools and districts to think about and to write for, providing them with technical assistance on not only language, but also thinking about the budget itself and thinking about what is the justification around it, but really just making sure that you are able to write a compelling narrative as to what that might look like. So, for example, so for Title One Part A, some of those areas that I had previously mentioned, when we think about family and community engagement, Title One Part A has successfully contributed not only to those family nights, but also to some of those take-home materials, as well as just in general, as we think about even some of those math and literacy perspectives, depending on what are those academic priorities in that Title One plan for areas of focus. So, depending on what that looks like, we've been able to very successfully work alongside school based administrators to figure out how they could actualize their Title One monies to support this type of work, as well as thinking and shifting over to Title Two, which is very specifically geared towards professional learning. We do have a very robust professional development offering that we are going to not only be able to provide professional learning opportunities for teachers, but also thinking about coaches and administrators. And not only can we provide those initial training sessions and PD, but we can also, once again, do job embedded coaching on site as well. So thinking about different things that we could even do. And also we even have different types of virtual options as well. So just thinking about how we can support professional learning and whatever that may look like. Flipping over to Title IV. So Title IV Part A and Part B. Title IV Part A being in school hours. So thinking about some of those areas within that allocation grant. So whether it's STEM or STEAM education, digital literacy and fluency, well-rounded educational opportunity, integration. So really just thinking about how we can support that work and based on those comprehensive needs assessments and what they're looking to accomplish. And then flipping that a little bit for Title IV Part B, those non-school hours through that 21st century learning community centers. So really thinking about those after school times, even before school, once again, summer breaks, things of that nature. How are we supporting a really great experience outside of the construct of the school day? If you also are interested or utilizing CTE or CTAE courses, thinking about those Perkins fundings specifically to support that type of learning in those pathways and those different areas of synergy, as I mentioned, as it relates to engineering, robotics, computer science, and IT and such. So, how can we utilize those sets within that? ESSER being another one. And I always have an asterisk by that because that one is more of a time sensitive, as I like to say, allocation because those monies will not be here forever. They are earmarked to end in specific states by 2024. So that will not always be a budget source that's going to be fully and readily available. However, it is presently. So that is something that we have worked alongside different district level leadership to think about how they can use their ESSER funding, whether it is for learning loss, learning recovery, thinking about what is going to make the most sense based on what it is their students need most. And then last but not least, thinking about this early childhood space. So thinking about our youngest learners and different things that we have done with our Duplo based bricks. So those are going to be our larger bricks for our young friends around this idea of looking at funding opportunities through not only Head Start, but IDEA. And depending on your state will also depend on the other types of funding opportunities that would be available. So flipping the script a little bit outside of these federal programs, just because this is definitely more typically a district level conversation outside of that Title One monies if you're a Title One school. So what does it look like also if we flip the script and think on more of an individual level? So something that's a little bit smaller outside of this parameter of these federal budget strings. So thinking about local funding opportunities, and once again, this is nowhere near comprehensive or exhaustive. This is just actual grants that we have supported in the past on the teacher level, that we have been able to afford teachers opportunities and pointed them towards some things of this nature in these specific states and regions to support things for their own specific classroom that wouldn't require access to federal monies or specifically thinking about how they could kind of utilize these so that they could take on uh, some ideas of their own so they could actualize on this. So, for example, in the great state of Georgia, they have their computer science teacher equipment and community grant. So, this is not only going to afford them opportunities to be involved in CS professional development through CSTA, but it also then provides them with an allocation for a full class set of materials. So I do know we are one of the providers on that list. So once again, that is something that is happening within the state of Georgia. Another one, Louisiana, specifically sponsored by LSU. They have the Quality Science and Mathematics Grant Program. It affords teacher once again classroom materials in that realm of science and mathematics. So, like I said, that's another one to check out. A really great opportunity. Same thing, like I said, in Tennessee by TSIN. They're actually affording classroom grants for people who are wanting to maximize and expand their STEM education. So, like I said, it really great opportunity to really think about how we can look at localized funding, things that you as an individual, if you are coming to us as a teacher, could look at to try to actually help fund and offset some of these costs, especially if you're interested in expanding or trying to create, whether it's after school robotics or even just integrate into your, core science classroom and things of that nature. The last one that's listed here is a little bit of an interesting one just because it is kind of an open funding source, if you will, for all 50 states. That's going to be through Donors Choose. So, specifically, it is a platform where you can actually go on, sign up, and actually create a project that basically would then be able to be funded by several different just open donor sources. So definitely something that you could check out to see how, to actually think about how you could possibly even submit a project. So, kind of wrapping this up, a couple of things to kind of leave you with. We do have a lot of this actually written out, especially around the funding sources on a federal level. So, this will be something that we can absolutely share out after the fact. So, you have this information and you can think about this alongside of some additional technical assistance with grant writing opportunities. And then one of the things that I will finalize our conversation with as we kind of come up to the end of our time together is the utility of the sets themselves. We are a non-consumable resource, so absolutely, as long as you keep really great track of your inventory and you think about inventory management, you have non-consumable sets. You can use them year over year. So they can be used in a variety of different use cases, as I hopefully have demonstrated and showed for you today. They're durable, lasting equipment. So, like I said, whether you're using it in after school, a summer program, you're integrating into a classroom, or a combination of all those things, they're a great return on investment. Like I said, as long as you keep track of your sets and you're doing some good inventory management, they're going to last year over year. So, like I said, it's a great teaching and learning tool, and hopefully we've been able to showcase some of those things today to give you some different ideas and thoughts as it relates to different grants and funding opportunities. Um, in closing, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for joining us. We very much thoroughly appreciate you. If there is something very specific and there wasn't a use case that we discussed here today, or you have something that you definitely want to have further conversations about, by all means, we will absolutely follow up. We can have more personalized conversations with you individually. As I mentioned, plenty of my other colleagues are on this call, so this will be something that we will follow up with you about so that we can make sure that if you would like to have further conversations and talk about your specific needs, that we can work with you to not only figure out what is it that you would like for your Lego education programming, but also to support you in that area of funding. Otherwise, like I said, thank you so much for your time. We thoroughly appreciate you being here and learning a little bit more about Lego education with us. Otherwise, like I said, I'll kind of pause right now. If you have any questions or any further thoughts that we can quickly answer in the chat that hasn't been answered, by all means, we will kind of open up for that.